afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum with me, our host Imperial Dane, looking at today and other things I'd like to see. This time they're just more specific to companies too, and that is, I'd actually like to see some better pioneers. They're all just one of those really awkward units that the family stuck with, one of numerous, but just considering that most other sort of engineer units are either cheaper or flat out better on several levels, the pioneers increasingly others feel lost there in the sort of power creep that's sort of just been hitting the game there for the last numerous patches, which again really hasn't helped the Wehrmacht much. I mean, compared with re-echelons, who basically cost the same amount of manpower but overall have better DPS spread, then the pioneers have better veterancy bonus. In fact, they get more veterancy or accuracy at veterancy 1. They don't get any silly veterancy ability, which is barely utilized. They gain better combat bonus. They get increased squad sizes. And compared with sappers, and you might say, oh, what, your sappers aren't available easily from the building, but you know, that tier isn't exactly difficult to get, and you can usually get them at 3 minutes. So, I mean, it's not that far off to compare them. In that case, you're paying 10 manpower more for a unit that has 20% less received accuracy for starters, better DPS, and again, some pretty impressive bonuses. Engineers, obviously, so engineers, but they don't cost the same thing, and they can also, fight at range, which again the pioneers can't, and they also are working with bigger squads, which the pioneers aren't. And then of course you have the Sturm pioneers, of course cost thinner manpower, but again they also pack a bit more of a punch overall down the road if they get to the end of that road, which of course is a bit of a problem there. But again, the pioneers, they just lack something. I mean, up close, I mean, they don't really do a lot of damage there with the MP40s. And, at this point, there's not really going to be much harm because, again, I mean, most infantry is just basically going to outdo them anyways. Just getting a bit more damage up there will be, not too bad. But overall, I think they just need to, for starters, look at overhauling some of that veterancy. I mean, the repair speed is pretty rubbish anyway, so maybe also just throwing in a bonus there when they get the hazard removal package, like some other units still will make them a bit more worthwhile. But I think, just replacing that Veterans 1 ability with something with a bit more utility for the Pioneers in the first place would be good. A regular grenade, or a smoke grenade, or a 5th squad member, or just something, or maybe a cheaper reinforcement ability like the, sappers do. I mean, there's just so much there which could have been do with the Pioneers, but again, they just sort of stuck behind in the power creep, and they just end up being there for the flamethrowers, minesweepers, and doing other bits. But even then, they're still going to be sort of a bit rubbish and can't really pull the weight. And you're generally going to need 2 to 3 to sort of get anything repaired compared to the American who self-repair rapidly. Sappers can fix things quickly as well. And the Russians will get an infinite number of different repair abilities as well. And of course, the Oberkommando has the Storm Pioneers, and of course, the Mechanized Regiment. It's just one of those sort of things where the Wehrmacht just sort of feels awkwardly off increasingly as well. So thinking this to start with the Pioneers, and again, I do think they partly need a rethink, but also a bit of buff. Sure, make them a bit expensive if necessary, but overall, I do think the Pioneers need something more. They just not really cutting it half the time. I feel they just sort of, again, part of an overall 4-man army, and they're not really able to carry the weight very much. I mean, if necessary, give them, like I say, an assault upgrade, that gives them access then to grenades, but also some better submachine guns if necessary. Throw in some Soviet ones just to make them look meaner, the PPH-41. I mean, that would also make them a lot more useful down the road. Again, that would give them a bit more utility and something for them to sort of fear more from. And again, it would just give the Wehrmacht, a bit more strategic diversity, as Relic likes to say, but never give to the Wehrmacht. And just give them a bit more to work with. And of course, you might say, well, Pioneer spam, and well, we've always seen re-echelon spam, and re-echelons can actually be upgraded to be more lethal with BARs and light machine guns or bazookas, and Pioneers are never going to get close to that same level of utility. You see plenty of people spamming sappers, and they can be upgraded with light machine guns, PETs. They can be given armor upgrades, and they become just really good with veterancy. Can't say the engineers, but again, they're working as part of a sort of overall squad larger army, and even they get more to go for than the Pioneers with, for example, special repair kits and other sorts of bonuses like different kinds of mines they can put down. And, well, this goes on, really. I'm not saying, the Engineers maybe couldn't do with something, but again, considering the overall how the direction of the power creep, I'd say the more pressing matter is the Pioneers. For them to get something just a bit extra again, upgrades, but also just some slightly different and better veterancy, because I don't really think it's cutting it at all, to be honest. It's just a bit too weak. Which again, when the Wehrmacht, and again you're dealing with a four-man squad, doesn't really cut it increasingly. Not in a world, again, with the Western allies keep getting buffed in every conceivable direction. So, something like that I think would be a very good movement, again, would sort of help alleviate some of the Wehrmacht's issues, just for starters. So just a little video there, just something to think about, possibly talk about. I'm sure there'll be people just going, well, no, pioneers are perfectly fine and so on, then of course not really give any sort of coherent reason, but go figure. So anyways, just a little video then. Of course, if you agree with it, sign off the comments, and of course, talk to Relic about it. Obviously, we're probably not going to see anything anytime soon due to that tournament, so that pretty much means balance is going to be on lockdown for some time unless something radically forces their hand, like a huge outcry of demand from the player base, which probably isn't going to happen, or somehow the tournament really just forces their hand. So I don't know if we'll see anything there, but there you go. Just a little Propagandacast Addendum. Haven't been quite with there, so I figured I'd get something out. So hopefully, again, you sort of like this and, agree with it. If you do, again, sign off. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers and thank you for watching. See you all another time for some more exciting stuff. Cheers.